idea that you might do better. For instance, if there was some space on Arundel Street for 2 or 3 specialist retailers, that we've already got 2 galleries, our own and somebody else's on the street. There's already 1 good cafe and 2 university cafes, and a snack bar, and car parking, and it's handy for other things. That street is ripe, and the university could have taken a lead to say, why not create some interesting upmarket retail space, maybe for resale galleries and whatever, and start people coming there. And then the community side of it, people won't come to the university just for a university cup of tea, will they?
No, yeah, every new building everywhere, they're all kind of a coffee shop.
That's right, yeah.
Well, I think facilities fight for retail in an open market there. That's a cost centre, not a service. One thing I'm getting with Jem is that when the Rockland has been closed for ages. There's people from the course looking at me. I think you can make a great hub space for the institute. If it ever came, it's always coming available. You know the place I mean? It's right in the corner next to the. It's just opened up again, hasn't it? Somebody's taken it over again, but it's just like the Chelsea Art.
But it would be interesting to look at the community aspect through making space for things to bridge.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you suggest the university suggesting retail in a Nottingham area, because the reading we've been doing over the last week is suggesting the university with ever increasing numbers being more responsible for developing the environment around the numbers.
Sorry,
yeah. No, that's right. You shut up. He's on the money here. Come on then.
Which bit did we get to?
No, I didn't miss anything. No, I was just interrupted.
No, that was it. I got that.
But it's interesting actually that where the university's been partner in building a lot of private accommodation for students is where that very nice job's been done on putting a Sainsbury's into that old rundown cinema, dance hall, the nightclub, which, if you remember what it was like, it was, but after it was a rather nice white building, it became a very dirty black building, and then it was always going to go. And it was the students coming in that enabled that to be created. And yet the university does not seem generally to be that interested in what goes on its margins. You know, a bookshop. Well, yes, that's obvious. It took a private charity to create Butcher Works and to create a craft gallery and craft workshops. Are you familiar with Butcher Works, Fusion Cafes? Now that's actually the sort of thing which we should be doing, because a lot of our graduates are taking space there and working there and exhibiting there and selling their work there.
It's as if it was never going on. It's really bizarre. Yeah. But I'm sure there was something like that.
But you might also look at Fernhill Building. I've got a strong feeling. I worked there for a year. I've got a strong feeling about Fernhill Building. When we get a little bit more into the winter, next month, it's getting dark in the evenings, just take a walk around the outside, look particularly into that very large cafe area in the Fernhill Building, which has been set up to be largely a social space. And ask yourself, why would anyone want to go there, particularly after dark with the lighting that's in there? But from the outside, it looks desperate.
Unless you wait for a train. The trains don't go past it.
But it is desperate, and why would anyone go there if they had a choice? And yet the faculties are being, our faculty particularly, because that's one of our buildings, if you like, are being accused of demanding things that we didn't need, because the academics said we need more social space for students and academics to just work informally. And Furnivall, part of the plan there was the whole of the ground floor of the atrium space and the big canteen was set up to provide that. And it kind of halfway does. And in fact, I know people who teach tutorials in small groups, and they you just use that rather than book a room. They'll just take a table for an afternoon and see small groups of students.
Or a table at the other end of the atrium.
That's right. Yeah. But basically, there's something kind of weird and bleak, and there's nowhere to plug in your laptop. It's simple as that,
It's a bit like a modern day Edward Hopper painting.
Yes, that's exactly right.
If you go past there at night, the colour, and the one person in there with a laptop under those fluorescent lights, you think, this is Edward Hopper.
It is, it's perfect. Isn't it? I knew it was something. So
Alienation.
It's an artwork, basically.
It's an artwork. perhaps design.
So yeah, you know, I mean, we're just the aggrieved masses here.
What's the expectation on the on this assignment in terms of our continued? Sorry.
We haven't got a schedule of accommodation or anything like that. We haven't got any specific.
We have to define our own.
Yes.
Part of the module is defining your own brief.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what other input we're.
I think we've got some. We have some sort of crit dates and things.
Oh, right,
Let's
okay.
take part in. Couple of thoughts that if I was really briefing here, something that the university's been very bad at doing. Space wars, obviously, always going on, and personal space, office space, is a big issue. But there is also a university policy on laptops, or faculty policy on laptops. Staff aren't allowed to have a laptop unless you're in regularly travelling to Kuala Lumpur or university business. Now, this isn't a universal. For instance, De Montfort University said, we don't feel that many of our staff need personal or private offices. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them really nice technology so they can do their work wherever they are. We're going to equip them with, this was before Wi-Fi was universal, places to plug in your laptop everywhere. Brighton University actually, go in the architecture department, open space. Most of the staff don't have an office, but there are different workspaces. There's always someone to plug in to the network. And you see a lot of staff just working in the studio, quite happy.
Yeah, but that. Yeah.
What we'll say is, there are radical models of where people work and how they work that have never been investigated at this university.
That's something that
It would be interesting to question
The scenario.
yeah, the concept of office space, of workspace, of shared space, of private space.
Because in a way it's like the emphasis on providing lots of undefined space for students to go and do their self, you know, to set up and do stations or stand up to these kiosks and stuff. But the staff still are in the chicken coops. You know, they're still in these chicken coop offices, and they're kind of lined in this sort of thing, which provides a sort of separation in this making process. And it's like, it's all about when it drives other things around staff and student contact, perception of the student, having support from the staff member, and how contactable they are can be immediately defined by the fact that they're in an office on another floor somewhere. If they were more, as it were, mobile, if you like. And Chris is right, sometimes it's driven by practice that's not necessarily challenged.
The staff at De Montfort were so charmed with being offered a choice of very good computers that they could take home, that a lot of them, I think, who are only part-time lecturers anyway, never worried about the fact they would no longer have a guaranteed desk. There would be some desks available for them. So it's not completely, if the proposition's right, but what I'm more interested in, my last two offices, I'm throwing away all the furniture. My present office is quite big actually, not big as this.
Yes, I know.
There's a big cupboard. There was a big 4-drawer filing cabinet that was broken. There's a huge looming bookcase, and I've got rid of all of them.
Yeah.
And basically, what I'm trying to do is create a space where it's a bigger table for more chairs. There's a battle, you know, how many chairs are allowed. I want to have meetings, and I want other people to borrow it for meetings, and I want it to become a display space for things that are of value to my department. And yet, that when Furnival Building was opened, staff would take them around and say, here's a typical staff office. You will have one filing cabinet, one cupboard, one desk, one chair, and you needn't think you have anything else.
For the use of.
That's right, yeah. And again, we had to fight to get anything other than the standard prescription, even though what we actually wanted was less than the standard prescription.
You must have a filing cabinet.
Yeah, and actually, there is this thing called a paperless office, and people can achieve it. I've actually only got one file, and it's the one that's got my receipts for my expenses.
It's quite.
It's the only one I have. It's the only place I have to have paper. I'm forced to have paper.
One file.
So you know. So there are ways you can change workspace. But
I'm working on it.
We've never changed it, or even find a workspace in guest case.
No, it's interesting because I don't, you know, well, I'm just in that moving office, but I'm a victim of that way of thinking because I go into the office, the office I'm in at the moment, it's got this says it's like, you know, your regulation uniform.